Alrighty, here we go, getting the angles correct, and here we go. So, how's it going? So, decided to upload a kind of different video onto my channel. I want to do an album review, uh, slash band retrospective. I've been kind of debating doing this for a while, and due to the artist that I'm about to talk about, I felt like it was very appropriate to make a video like this. So, if you aren't familiar or don't follow music as closely as I do, you might not know, or you may know, that Radiohead, a band that's been around for the earlier part of the 90s, has just finally released their long awaited album called A Moon Shaped Pool. And they've been kind of in secret about it this whole year. Um, they have this massive tour coming up in the summer, and I'm very fortunate enough to go see it in the summer, and I've never seen them, so I'm extremely excited. But I wanted to give my thoughts about Radiohead, the album, and just kind of see what happens. So it's going to be an album review slash band retrospective in a sense. So I may keep this going. Not entirely sure yet. So we'll see. So let's start. But before I get into my thoughts on the new album, I just want to kind of share my thoughts about Radiohead as a whole and how they've shaped my musicality and maybe kind of rethink about music and stuff like that. So when I was in high school, around 15 or so, I was in New York at a record shop. I picked up a copy of this album right here. It's called OK Computer. Highly regarded as one of their best albums, and for many, many reasons, and I'll get to that in a second. But when I first listened to it, it kind of went over my head. Not gonna lie. I barely remember anything. I remember listening to Airbag a bunch of times and thinking that was a really great song, but I think was too young, maybe to or not ready to really understand what Radiohead was all about. And so I kind of just ignored them for a while and thought, whatever. Everyone's into them. I don't necessarily need to listen to them. But then I got to college. Things kind of changed a little bit, and my taste in music has definitely changed with it. So when I was talking to a couple of friends, I don't know, years ago, they talked about the album In Rainbows, which was an album that they kind of pushed out for free, I think. I don't really remember the backstory, but I had got the album eventually, listened to In Rainbows, and really liked it. And I was like surprised that I really liked it. So I said, "Oh, okay, this band's kind of good. Let's see what else they have." So then I listened to literally every single album that they have ever released, minus their first album. I don't know. I guess I avoided it because of Creep. And I have very different opinions about Bobble Honey now. But regardless, I then, after listening to all their albums, really started to understand why people love this group so much. From the beginning, Radiohead is first and foremost a rock group. They may not sound like a rock group on all their albums, but they are, at their core, a rock group. A rock group that's constantly changing. So if you listen to their very first album, Pablo Honey, you'll notice a very alternative rock sound, and Creep obviously is the biggest single they've ever released, and it's kind of what got them to where they are now. So I kind of can't dismiss Creep, even though I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Creep. But then you get to albums like The Bends, the album I just showed you, OK Computer, and even Kid A, which is my personal favorite Radiohead album. You start to see them really experiment with their sound as a whole, and it's quite good. It's quite good. Like, The Bends kind of still stays along the same lines as Pablo Honey, but it's different somehow. Like, the songwriting is a little bit smarter. The tracks themselves are a lot darker. It ends with Street Spirit, which is my favorite song off that album, and you saw if you watch my channel, I covered that pretty recently, and it's a really just like powerful song, and it really spoke to me. And listening to the albums in chronological order, you can kind of hear that they wanted to give their audience a hint of this is where we're headed now, and then we're gonna give you just a small taste of it. And then they get the OK Computer, and then they start experimenting more with electronics. And then by the time they get to Kid A, they're just like, we're not gonna make an entirely guitar album. We're gonna make maybe one or two songs that have guitar at best, and then it's gonna be all electronic based after that. And then from there, Radiohead kind of just stayed in that general direction. And then there's like Hail to the Thief, where they kind of brings more stuff with guitars back into the picture, and then King of Limbs, which it kind of go back into more of the electronic stuff. So, and then after King of Limbs, which came out in 2011, you didn't really hear anything from Radiohead. May have popped up here and there, but other than that, Tom York was mostly in the news by himself. He had that group, Adam Rapace, and yeah, but then Radiohead kind of fell silent for a little bit until pretty recently, when they decided that they're going to delete all their social media stuff. So all their Facebook stuff was gone, all their tweets were gone. Tom York got rid of his tweets. Johnny Greenwood got rid of his tweets. Like it was like had to disappear completely. No pun intended. And I'm guessing that was a hint that hey, we're gonna be releasing new music soon. Sure enough, they released "Burn the Witch," which is the very first song off of Moon-Shaped Pool, and I heard it and I was immediately in love with it. I loved it, and the rest of the album as well because I think it's some of the best stuff they've ever written in a very, very long time, from start to finish. I think every single song is drastically different from each other, which is very unusual for a Radiohead album, I think. And everything's very orchestrated. There's a lot more strings that they use, which I haven't really heard an entire album of just that type of material. And there's a lot of really darker songs that they haven't done. And then, of course, there's the last song, which is called True Love Waits, which, if you aren't in the know, they recorded that, not a studio version, but there's a live version way back in like 2001. And it was Tom York doing it by himself acoustically. And so a lot of fans were very, very happy to see there was a studio version of that song finally after all this time of knowing about the song. But I think A Moon-Shaped Pool, in many ways, for me, might be the album of the year. And this year's even halfway over. So I think it's going to be a very interesting thing to see what comes out musically after that. I've listened to a lot of great albums this year already, but I think on Moon-Shaped Pool, Radiohead really wanted to go all out and have everything just like dark, mysterious sounding. Like every single song is kind of like taking acid. And kind of funny because knowing the Radiohead fan base and doing the shows, it's like giant light shows and all that. But every single song was just so carefully meticulated and carefully constructed, and as with every single Radiohead song, but there's something that they do very, very right. And even when I listened to King of Limbs, I didn't really have that same feeling of, oh wow, this is really, really cool, because it took me a while to get into King of Limbs. It took me a while to get into OK Computer first. It took me a while to appreciate Pablo Honey for what it was. I basically got the exact same reaction from this album as I did the first time I heard Kid A, or the first time I heard Amnesiac, or the first time I heard The Bends. It was an immediate, oh my god, I can't believe what I'm listening to. Like, you listen to songs like Daydreaming and The Numbers and even True Love Waits. It's just, all those songs, they just kind of hit you emotionally, and you don't know why. And that's kind of how I felt the first time I heard the songs like Nice Dream, My Iron Lung, Bulletproof, and Life in a Glass House, which, Life in a Glass House knocks me out of the park every time I listen to it. It's like the most depressing song I've ever heard. Radiohead, I think, did an amazing job with this album, and Nigel, who has basically produced every single album from the Bends on, just really, really did some of the best work for this group that I've heard in quite some time. I give Radiohead so much credit for doing what they do, and again, there hasn't been a band nearly to the same level as these guys have been doing for years that are really changing how people view music and how people should be writing and how people should be producing and mixing and all that great stuff. Radiohead has been kind of like the kings of that as far as alternative music, and I really look forward to seeing them live and seeing these songs performed live. So anyway, I don't know if there is any points that I made in this video or anything that you took away from this, but I just kind of wanted to ramble a little bit about this group because they do mean a lot to me and they mean a lot to a lot of people. There's basically so many people that I know that love this group. It's kind of like a universal sign of, oh yeah, Radiohead, they're great. Even if it's just, oh, I love Creed. A lot of people have very different opinions about all their albums and very different opinions about their favorite songs. So it's very, very interesting. It's kind of like a small little community of people. So if you got anything out of this video, great. And if not, then I'll try to do better next time. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you like what you see, I may keep this up. I may not. It all depends on your reactions. So that's all for now, and hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll speak to you all soon.